Good morning, student. This is the second part of my video on the poem The Wasteland. Let's begin with the poem. The poem is a joinder to Matthew Arnold's Dover Beach. In Matthew Arnold's Dover Beach, Matthew Arnold describes about the three deaths that has occurred till his time. The first two that has been observed by Sophocles, the Greek playwright. Sophocles at the shore of Aegean Sea observed the death of Faith and subsequently death of God. Then Matthew Arnold, when he was on his honeymoon to Dover Beach, he observed the third death, that was the death of love. So he describes that there are three deaths till Matthew Arnold's time, and T.S. Eliot from there only begins his poem commenting and lamenting upon the fourth death, that is, after death of love there is death of man. So it is a lament upon, or it is a song of lament upon the death of man. The first section, we begin with the first section, the burial of the dead. The burial of the dead, it is, the title has been taken from the Book of Common Prayers. The whole title is The Order of the Burial of the Dead. So where this title has been taken, also it employs the myth, Egyptian myth, where god Osiris, which represents death, rebirth and fertility. In the Egyptian myth, the Osiris represents this rebirth and fertility. This theme has been taken in the section of the burial of the dead. The opening lines directly connect this poem to Chaucer's prologue. The opening lines are, April is the cruelest month of the year, where Chaucer's poem begins with, it is in the month of April. April in the Chaucer's time was considered as the pious month or the holy month where people used to go for some pilgrimage. Whereas for the modern wastelander, April is the cruelest month. What it does, it awakens us. Awakens us means it helps to awaken our spirit, which the modern wastelander do not want to, as they have already dried out, as they have already died. The scene continues with the opening of the German princess, who is in the northern part of the Europe enjoying with her two cousin brothers. Her two cousin brothers are in love with this princess, and there is incest in the modern world, which has been shown with this relationship and with these characters. The scene 2 describes about the Jesus Christ, the holy follower of Jesus Christ, and the pious knight who are moving from the land of Fisher King towards Amos to restore the Holy Grail. The scene 3 describes about Moses. Moses, through his handful of dust, showed his follower the true path of God. So scene 3 describes about Moses, means all the followers, all the great men, they wanted their followers to follow the path of God in all the time of the past. Scene 4 describes about comes back to the holy follower of the Jesus Christ and to the pious knight. When they are crossing the land of Fisher King, they could see that there were clouds and there were thunder and lightning, but no rain. It was all humid, it was all warm, but no shadow, nothing. There were only red rock. Red rock here is symbol of church. Church in some way provides some kind of relief, but still there is no surety that people will follow the path of church. Scene 5 again describes about Hyacinth Girl. Hyacinth Girl, the name has been deliberately taken here. Hyacinth flowers, especially blue color, they describes about sexual arousal. Sex, which in the past has been taken as the source of birth and source of procreation. Here in the modern time, in the wasteland, in the time of the wastelanders, the sex has lost its charm, and rather it is no more the source of procreation. It is just mechanical and physical pleasure. Scene 6, shift to Madame Sosostris. Tyreses, who is the narrator of the poem, sees this Madame Sosostris, who is also a soothsayer, who can predict, and she is the most famous and intelligent woman of the Europe, and all her customers are the richest people of the Europe. She can predict the future, but she is also fearful because she doesn't know what is going to be in the near future. So this is what the Madame Sosostris describes about. There is no surety, even the people are no more sure about their own future, but they are there to profess about your future. So she represents such soothsayer, fake soothsayer. Also, she has a wicked pack of cards. This wicked pack of cards, which is now as considered as wicked pack of cards, these cards were used in the time of the Egyptian fertility only to predict the rains and to predict the crops. But now as the time passed, they have lost their charm, and they are now being used by these kind of fake soothsayer to predict the future of their customer. But she could not predict what this particular picture of the card says. Here is a picture of a man with three staves, with three knives, and the three knives are basically give, sympathize, control. Scene 7, shift to the present time, where Eliot observed that on the London Bridge, people are running after one another, and each eye is fixed in front of his own shoes. That is, people are so ashamed of themselves. It is just symbolical. People are so ashamed of themselves that they are not raising their head. Rather, each eyes are fixed in front of their own foot, and they are following one another at the stroke of 9. It means that unreal city under the brown fog, I have never known death has undone so many. It is a reference from Dante's Inferno, where he describes that in the 6th layer of hell, there are spirits which require to move further because there is not even hell to cure their sins. Similarly, people who are moving on the London Bridge, the crowd running after one another, they are as dead as the which are also known as limbo of the Dante's Inferno. They are all limbo. They are all died from inside. There is no spirit, and there are only bodies which are moving on the London Bridge. Then there is second section, Game of Chess. The title has been taken from Thomas Middleton's play Game of Chess, but the theme is suggestive from his another play, that is Women Beware of Women. Here the theme describes about two women who are playing chess at the ground floor, rather at the first floor. Duke, who is the husband of the woman, and her mother, his own mother, she is playing chess with her daughter-in-law. They are playing chess, and at the first floor, Duke is seducing a maiden girl, Bianca, and the movement of Duke and Bianca has been symbolized by the movement of chess. So sex is mere pleasure, and love has died even in the marriage. Then there is a scene of a woman who is sitting on a burnished chair. She has been compared with Shakespeare's Cleopatra, from Shakespeare's Antony and Cleopatra, where Cleopatra used to sit upon the burnished throne. Burnished throne means it is throne made of all gold. This woman is sitting on a burnished chair. It looks that she is one of the richest women of the Europe, and her room is lit with candles, and she is covering her odors with all the kinds of perfume that she can find in the Europe to hide her odor, and the room has been lit with candle to hide her wrinkles because she is old aged, and she is a prostitute to attract customer. She had covered her body with all the silk and the jewels that she could, and the room has not been lit to avoid any kind of chance to see her old age. The scene continues with the description of Sylvian scene, which is from the Virgil's Aeneid and also described in Milton's The Paradise Lost. Then Iliad describes the story of Philomela. In past, the myth of Philomela, which also occurs in Ovid's Metamorphoses, Iliad narrates this story in his own style. Philomela, who was younger sister of Procne, Procne was married to Tereus. Tereus goes to take Philomela from her house to Procne, and on the way he rapes Philomela and cuts her tongue so that she cannot predict or tell whatever happened with Philomela to Procne. Philomela then makes a tapestry depicting the sin which has happened with her. Knowing that this sin has been occurred, Procre and Philomela kills their only son of Tereus and then cooks it and gives to Tereus which he eats his own son. The scene immediately angers God, and God then turns Tereus into a kind of woodpecker, Procne into a swallow, and Philomela into a nightingale. And since then, Philomela narrates her story, Juk Juk to dirty ears. This is her song. That is, it is also ironical that sins were done even in the past, but there was a way to correct the sin. It was the way of pardon, it was the way of the death, and it was the day of resurrection. But for the modern wasteland, there is no death, there is no resurrection, as they do not want to go through their penance. Rather, they are ignorant of their sins. So, this is what the poem speaks about. Then there is a scene of Belladonna. Belladonna represents the barrenness of love in the upper class. And here the Belladonna, and this reference has been taken from Webster's, is that a way the wind blows. Belladonna asks for love from her lover, but at the same time she has been deprived of the love, as there is no love in the modern time, and she waits for her lover, and she always waits for her lover to come, but there is no such way that her lover is going to come back to her. So there is barrenness in the upper class. The scene then shifts to another class, in the middle class. Lil, who represents the love in the, or the barrenness of love and sterility in the lower class, she is a wife of Albert. Albert is an army man, and who is far away from the land. He always comes in the time of vacations, and Lil and Albert have already 5 children. Lil is now again pregnant, and she wants to get rid of the pregnancy. And to get rid of this continuous pregnancy, she has taken some pills which has made her look old, older than her age. And at the present picture, Lil is talking and discussing about all these things to her friend. This woman, who has been termed as a Cockney woman, a woman who is seeking a chance, she abuses Lil, that why she has married to Albert if she do not want to have children. Lil is already mother of 5 children, and she do not want to have another children, only for the reason that she has become so weak. But her husband want children again and again. So here Lil represent the sterility because she want to get rid of the pregnancy, and her husband Albert represent distorted version of the fertility myth. The section ends here with the vulgar note of "Tata, Tata" from Shakespeare's Hamlet, where Ophelia, before drowning, she sings a song, "Tata, Tata, the beloved world," and then she drowns. The same word has been taken from the Shakespeare's Hamlet. Also at the time of T.S. Eliot, when he was completing his education in the college, there was a song, a jazz song, which popular in his time, and this song was "Hurry up is the time, hurry up is the time." The same "hurry up is the time" has been taken from this particular song and it has been employed in this particular section. But here the sense has been disturbed. Hurry up is the time described that it is now the time that modern wastelanders should rise from their sleep, rise and aware about their sins, that they are piling sin upon sin upon sin, and should ask forgiveness from God. But there is no such uh, awakening, and there is no such people who would ask for penance. Rather, they are piling sin upon sin. So this tata symbolizes that there will be no such penance. This section ends here. Then comes the third section. The subtitle of this section has been taken from Lord Buddha's famous sermon, and he has given this sermon to his follower upon the three fires, the fire of lust, anger, and malice. The same kind of sentiments were also being expressed by Saint Augustine about the unholy passions, and also by Saint Paul in his sermon Unholy Alliances. So this particular section is from Indian myth or the Buddhist myth that has been taken, and it describes about the fire sermon or the Agni Varsha. The scene 1 opens upon the bank of river Thames. In the old time, here T.S. Eliot takes the reference from Spenser's song Prothalmium, where there is a description of marriage. In the old time and even in the time of Holy Bible, the Thames was the place where there were marriages, where there was the time where the layer of the water was covered with flower and petals of the flowers, and people used to worship river Thames. But in the present time, there is also some kind of marriage. There is a contrast now. So nymphs also come and visit there, and this marriages is only for one night. So marriage has lost its charm. There is, and similarly, river Thames has also lost his charm. There is no such worship. There are no such petals on the surface of the river. Rather, there are all the references, all the results of one night stand that can be found at the shore and also at the surface of the river. So this ironic contrast has been brought. It is where the call girls, they are have been replaced by the brides, and the vulgar practice of the sex is there in place of marriage. Eliot further describes about the sorrow of the common man, where he connects three scenes with one word. He describes that Marvel's coy mistress, where the mistress name is Leman, and Eliot himself was composing this poem at the lake or at the bank somewhere near the lake Leman and Lucerne. In German, this is known as Lake Leman, and Leman is also a river at the Babylon, where the people who were then Israelis, basically these Israelis who are remembering their motherland in Babylon, their motherland is Zion. So they are missing their motherland and they cry to go back to their motherland. They are asking to God that they want to visit their motherland. So Leman connects, this is the common noun which connects the three different places. The first of the coy mistress, that is the shyness of the woman, and there is a remembrance of a motherland and the beginning of a poem. The scene then shifts to lover asking to chuck coyness, and there is an interior monologue. There are two interior monologue which has been combined in these particular lines. The first was Marvel's to his coy mistress, and there Eliot's own poem, the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock. And then the scene shift to Fisher King's myth, where the Fisher King's myth, Fisher King is seen fishing. Here when T.S. Eliot began his poem, he was actually fishing at the lake Leman. So he compares his fishing to that of the Fisher King. Fisher king fishing means, it means that there are chances that there will be fertility in the future. So this scene is quite fruitful, and it is quite uh, predicting that there will be a chance of fertility in the near future. The scene then shifts to Sweeney and Mrs. Potter's. Mrs. Potter's, it was in the time of the First World War, when this Mrs. Potter, which was a real character which has been taken in some of part of the European country, which this Mrs. Potter's was famous for her brothels. She was a brothel keeper. And Sweeney, among the Nightingale, the Sweeney, this character has been taken from T.S. Eliot's own collection of the poem. So Sweeney, which is daughter of Mrs. Potter's, and Mrs. Potter's, they both wash their legs in soda water to look more beautiful, to look more white, so that they can attract customer. They symbolize the loss of basic human values in the modern society, where prostitutes, they are living a life of dignity and life of luxury among the so-called posh people of the modern Europe, and they are living in a bungalow where customers coming and going, and they are enjoying all kinds of pleasure that women like such reputation should not be enjoying. So there is loss of human value. Then there is a description of Parsifal. This Parsifal is basically the knight, which is name of the holy knight, or the name of the chaste knight. He is also virgin knight, and this Parsifal is the same person who is accompanying the pious follower of Jesus Christ through the land of Fisher King, and his name is, somewhere it is Parsifal, somewhere it is Parzival, taken from Wagner's Parsifal. Then there is reference of Mr. Organites. The reference of Mr. Organites comes here to symbolize the homosexuality. Homosexuality in the time of T.S. Eliot has been taken as the source of infertility, because there is no chance of procreation. So it is infertility, something which is infertility, or something there is a time where there is no such procreation, it is considered as sin. So homosexuality here is a sin, and the violet color also stands for the bisexuality. The bisexuality of Tiresias. Tiresias here himself is also a symbol of sterility, because he was both sometime a woman and man, and sometime a man, then woman, and then again a man. So this bisexuality of Tiresias is also a symbol of sterility. This particular scene is important, as Organites was once a real character, as it has been found that he once met with T.S. Eliot, and he found Eliot to be homosexual too, and he invited T.S. Eliot for a chat, but T.S. Eliot denied, and then he used his name in his poem to symbolize homosexuality. Uh, After this scene, Tiresias moved towards the another part. He remembers, he sits upon one of the sofa in a chamber of a woman, and he remembers that sins were there even in the time of Sophocles, and even in the time after Sophocles, but sins were then pardoned, and the sinners asked for forgiveness. They were never ignorant of their sin. They always kept asking for pardon from God. They are ashamed of they were ashamed of their sins. But the modern wasteland, they are not ashamed of their sin, rather they are ignorant of their sins. So this particular scene is the symbol of how people are piling sin upon sin. The scene occurs in the chamber of a woman, and this is the typist girl. She, this typist girl, she is waiting for her lover, and this man is a clerk in a company. He comes hiding his face. The man is hiding his face so that no one can see him. He makes love with the woman. This is the mechanical love, and this particular scene describes about the mechanical love. And then for some materialistic pleasure, she is making love with this man, she involved in some kind of mechanical love, making for some materialistic pleasure, and the man immediately moves, and with the mechanical hand she then uh, cares her hairs and correct her look, and she again involves in her lazying day, that is she pass her time as if nothing has happened. The same song comes, Jug Jug to the dirty ears. Philomela was punished for the sin that she has not done, whereas this typist girl, she is ignorant of her own sin. Then there is a line, when lovely woman stoops to folly. This particular line has been taken from Goldsmith, the Vicar of Wakefield. This line is for the typist girl. So this line symbolizes that woman, if she stoops for folly, no one is there to correct her. Water in this particular section is the symbol of fertility. But for the modern Wastelander, there is no such spiritual fertility that is going to take place. Then comes the fourth section. The title is a part of fertility myth taken from westerns, from ritual to romances. Eliot created this character Phlebs, as no one can find these characters anywhere else, and he is a Phoenician merchant. The Phoenician merchant also occurred, or the Sumerian merchant also occurred in the section of second section, where Madame Sosostris was checking the pack of card. This Phoenician one-eyed Phoenician merchant also occurred there, thus linking the previous section to the present section. The Phoenician merchant was killed and his bones are tossed in the water of sea. It symbolizes that the cycle of the life that goes on, that is, people are forgotten even when their names have not been forgotten. No one is worried where this Phoenician sailor has gone. No one is thinking about him, though he was one-eyed merchant. One-eyed merchant means a person who was involved completely in his business. He was not worried about any ups and downs of the city or of the sin of the past, but nobody is, after his death, nobody is worried about where he has gone. Then comes the final section of the poem, What the Thunder Said. The title has been taken from Vrihandak Upanishad, that is chapter 3. Vrihandaranyaka, from the chapter 3 of the Upanishad. The whole poem comes to final end and rather took a complete circle to this particular section, where the European wasteland has been combined with the Indian wasteland. The scene describes when Ganga is sunken. Here T.S. Eliot has taken the word Ganga as it is in place of Ganges, the English version, to symbolize or to make it more relevant to the Hindu myth or to the Indian myth. So Ganga was sunken and people and god and goddesses, they went to Prajapat and they said to Prajapat to forgive their sin and the water should return back to Ganga. Prajapat then spoke in thunder. He said the. The scene also describes about the day when Jesus Christ was crucified. It was the time when the follower of Jesus Christ, they were all red-faced, and the people who were crucifixing Jesus Christ, they were also red-faced. So Jesus Christ, when he was crucified in the garden, his followers, they collected their blood in the Holy Grail. The pious follower and the holy knight Parsifal, they have reached to the cathedral of Amos. On reaching to this cathedral, they found that on the way climbing to this particular cathedral, they saw some sunken eyes and red faces. This connect to the present time, to the time of the day when Jesus Christ was crucified. So people are inside their houses, and the cracked mud houses from where they are seeing this knight and the follower of Jesus Christ, but they are not coming out, means they are still there, people are still there, but the humanity has died. They can feel that there is thunder and there is lightning, but there is also sound of water where there is no water. There is also a grasshopper and some sound of water on the rock. They climb to the cathedral and they move towards the portion where Holy Grail was placed. The cathedral is all covered by the uh, graves of the nuns who have died, and because this place was at some point was place of worship, there are grasses, there is a well, and there is water. This water symbolizes the purity and the grass symbolizes birth. So the moment they restore the Holy Grail and ask prayer through the Holy Grail, the fertility of the land is restored, and there is water, tip, drop, tip, which washes the sins of the people and of the land and of the fisher king, and the fertility is restored. Coming back to the Indian wasteland, where Prajapat spoke in thunder, the symbolizing Datta give, the Dayadhavam sympathize, the Damyat control. The poem ends on the note of Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. The end suggested the spiritual rebirth of the decaying West can only be possible through the Indian myth. So this was the end of the poem. The poem is long and I have not read the text. While reading a text, one can describe furthermore. The poem also is suggestive that while crossing the land of Amos with Holy Night and the pious follower of Jesus Christ, it seems that Jesus Christ was also walking with them while restoring the Holy Grail, and that's why rain were dropped. So the poem ends exactly where it began, asking for rebirth, and then ends on the Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you. Good day.